by seven figures. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Public Works Finance Committee meeting for June 12, 2017. Joining me here is Walter Steed and Gina Terusio.
Hi there.
Jen Piffner sitting in for the city, and Sarah Banks is at the table to do the finance report as well. First item on the agenda today is approval of the Public Works Finance Committee May 8, 2017 minutes. Entertain a motion.
I'm good with them.
I'll second that.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
We'll assume those minutes are approved. Item number 2 on today's agenda is the disbursement report for May 2017. And Gary J. Reedner isn't here, so I assume Jen Piffner is going to hand that off to Sarah Banks to deal with.
All right. Good afternoon. Well, looking at the CCSR, the total expenditures for May were $1,926,744. Payroll came in at the largest at $1,765,000. Everything else was pretty straightforward with our payments. We did have a few out of the ordinary. We did purchase a Ford F-350 for the Parks Department, which was $22,584. We made a payment for the downtown restrooms. That was $35,382. And then we made our contract payment to Partnership for Economic Prosperity in the amount of $40,000. Other than that, the rest was our standard.
How did they get a one-ton pickup for $22,000? Is that Dwight's deal? Like, do you do the negotiation on that, Dwight? Because that's a really good price for a
You might want to take them next time. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you should.
That's a good price for an F-50.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. I guess I'd entertain a motion to approve the disbursement report for May. Everybody seems to be in favor, so we'll consider that as a passage.
Put on consent.
Consent agenda.
All right.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Item number 3 is a public meeting reconsideration condition of approval for lot division at 335 Lauder Avenue. Mike Ray's going to tell us the details on the extra entrance there.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mike.
So before you today, we have a public meeting, and this is a reconsideration on the request of Otto Kais for a second approach on a previously approved property that was divided into 3 in 2015. So just to refresh your memory, this is the property. It's about 16,500 square feet in size at the intersection of we have Taylor and Lauder up here in the north portion of the screen, and this is where Lauder heads due south and then makes a due east direction change. This is the property outlined in red at the center of your screen. So within the R4 zone, which is multifamily residential, this was the division that was approved, so taking that 16,500 square foot parcel and dividing it into 3 parcels of similar size. This was the record of survey that was submitted, so we have the 3 properties, and then you have a shared access easement across parcel B, and this is where the single approach was intended to be created, was off of parcel B, shared by parcel A and parcel C. And this is what the applicant is currently proposing, a reconsideration to allow more of an ingress and an egress approach. And I think the concern from the Public Works Department previously when this lot division was approved was under the current zoning code, we allow 1 approach per parcel. And so if we were to not restrict it to 1 approach with this lot division, then you could essentially end up with 3 approaches of similar spacing, so grouped together along this Lauder Avenue curve. And so that was really the concern. With this configuration, you'd be maintaining, I guess, the 1 approach here in the center, but you'd be incorporating an ingress approach further to the north on Lauder. So it would be utilize more of an ingress egress where they would enter the property via the northern approach and then exit via the southern approach. We have this is a picture that was submitted on behalf of the applicant. So this shows the proximity to the ingress and then the egress here to the south. You will notice there is a concrete median at the center. So this is just right in, right out on this property. So that would, usually when you have curves and roads, you have some issues with sight distances and safety issues. This eliminates a lot of those because there's no left turn out, so you can't go northbound. You have to make a right turn in and right turn out of the property. So just to go over the original issues, there is a memo from Public Works Department with their comments and recommendation. They had stated with the original condition, the topography and unusual roadway configuration of this stretch could create safety issues if any approaches were grouped tightly together in that area. So, if we allowed 3 approaches, could have resulted in an issue with safety being in such a close proximity. And Public Works recommendation for this action to say that the adverse effect of traffic safety added by allowing the ingress-only approach to the north will likely be negligible if constructed as proposed, and Public Works recommends approval of the request to allow a second approach on the Louder Avenue. And we did renotice this as a public meeting, so we did notify everybody within 600 feet, so there could be potentially some members of the public here to speak on this issue. So.
Okay. So at this point, I guess I'll ask anyone from the public who is here and wants to speak to this issue to come up to the table and give us your name and address and tell us what your concerns might be.
Give anyone else the opportunity? My name is Myron Schreck, spelled S-C-H-R-E-C-K. Excuse me. I live at 494 Ridge Road, which is the road that's above where this subdivision is, and above a street called Boyd, which is to the south of parcel B and C. And I think if you put, could you put the aerial view? Yeah, you can see where Boyd Avenue is. You see where Lauder is. And I drive past Lauder going down on Ridge Road. I identify the very top is Taylor, and at the very off of Lauder going south is Ridge Road. It's not identified there, but it's that curvature street. Thank you very much for identifying. So I drive that regularly. I also sometimes, though very rarely, drive past where the ingress and egress is going to be as proposed. And I wanted to point out a few things that I don't know whether it's been adequately covered. And I'm appearing today because when I first heard about the original proposal for only one vehicular approach, and I spoke to someone, I can't remember her name. It was over 2 years ago because it's going back to September of 2015 when the City Council approved the original, the original approval, whatever you call it.
Lot division.
Right, the lot division. So my basic recollection was that it was identified to me that there might be an access off the parcels off of Boyd, and that's why only one vehicular ingress and egress was permitted. I looked at the City Council minutes to see if I could find any additional information. Couldn't find anything on that. Though it says here that there was a recorded easement that would be part of the lot division approval. So I gather that's been approved in the original lot division.
And Mike can show you the easement that's.
And so the easement that you're talking about is only the easement across parcel C. Is that it, parcel B?
Yeah, it's just the easement for the benefit of parcel A, B, and C. So it'd be across parcel B, but since there was just a single approach approved previously, in order to be able to utilize that single approach for parcel C and parcel A, they'd need a shared access easement, and so that would be the easement that's referred to in the previous.
Yeah. Well, I could definitely see the issue of only one vehicular access if that was the only way in and out. But the only reason I'm showing up today is because I thought I was informed by Public Works, again, 2 years ago, and I could be totally mistaken, that there was another way in at those parcels. I do know that I guess they are sort of locked in. Okay.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't remember that either. It would seem like the property owner to the north side of Boyd would have to grant access to parcel C in order for that to be an access.
Yeah, and I drove by there the last couple of days to double check that. Also, I wanted to check out where Deacon Extension is, whether that provides access to the parcel, but it looks like it doesn't because the red-lined area is still quite a ways from where Deacon Extension is. Do you know what I'm talking about by Deacon?
Yeah, there's an alley
There
here,
it is.
and,
Yeah,
and
it's
we
an
have
alley.
it labeled as Deacon Avenue Extension, but it's actually a private drive.
Oh, okay.
So it's been, there's a few parcels that end up utilizing their access off of that private drive, but they have no rights to it for this parcel here. It would just be for the benefit of this parcel as well as these parcels, and they'd really need to go through a court process in order to deem who actually has the right to utilize that, since it is a private drive and it doesn't appear to be tied to any one of those properties there.
And the only reason I mention all that is because, and I should have begun with this, is that Lauder Avenue stretch really does present a safety issue, especially in wintertime. In wintertime, I always avoid that stretch of Lauder Avenue for various reasons, but I've actually seen cars get stuck on that median, the cement median, because the snow is so high, and in trying to, you can't see it from here, but you actually have to go a certain grade up at an angle when you're going from Lauder on the east side to the curvature on Lauder going north to Taylor. So I just was wondering whether the city and Public Works has looked closely, and I guess that's you, whether your staff has looked closely, at some of these safety issues. If there is an egress and egress, let me ask if you can identify fairly clearly that one is in and one is out, rather than both ways, mainly because the same issue occurs to a property that is just north of parcel A. You take a look at the overview again, you'll see where that building is, and you can see a tip of where the cars are parked. They pull right in off of, so do you know which building I'm talking about? It's
This one?
That's exactly it. And they have a slight driveway where cars can pull in and perhaps even turn around. But right now, cars are mostly, or at least 2-3 cars are parked by pulling in and then having to back out. And I do know, I noticed in your staff report, that the concern is over cars pulling in and then having to back out. So whatever you do, I'd like to just point out the safety issues are very real issues for all of us who live in that area and drive. And those issues are particularly a concern in wintertime.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Question for Mike, if I may. Mike,
Yeah.
what is the current access for parcel A, the house that's on it?
There isn't currently an approach off of Lauder. The current access would probably be from this property here, since it currently, I believe, is in common ownership. But the intent of the lot division here was to be able to sell off portions of this property and this property here. And so I believe the current access, this was originally used as an accessory building. So it was Mr. Kais' shop building, I believe, and over time, he's wanted, I think his future plans were to convert that into a house. And so obviously you need a separate access for a house if it's not going to be tied with this main property here. And so as this evolves, then, you know, and the arrangement has changed to have this be a house, then this is what's pretty much necessitating the approach off of Louder.
Okay, so none of this is, since the lot division, nothing's been constructed, and there is no access off Lauder currently.
There's no access off Louder currently.
So they're trying to augment that by making an in-out and make it safer so that people wouldn't be trying to get out in and out of the same small hole
Yeah.
for 3 different parcels.
I think they've reached the point where it's ready to construct the approach, and now that the house or the accessory structure is being converted into a house, and it's time to construct the approach, I think they're rethinking what that approach is going to look like, thinking that it's going to be shared by multiple parcels and just a single approach off of there. So,
If there wasn't a median and cars could turn left there, I think it would be much, something of a problem. The more, it'd be like in front of Rosar's, where there's 35 curve cuts that people can get into, and it creates a traffic issue. But since you can only go in one way, and it's only a right turn in and a right turn out, it's probably practical in this case, I would think. Anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Mike, back to the easement issue. There will be a new easement that allows C access through the northern cut?
that would be a question for the applicant. I would say most likely that there would be, correct, yeah.
Hey, Scott.
Hi, Scott Becker with Hodge and Associates, 405 South Washington. We looked at this access, this secondary access, for 2 reasons. One, for safety of, so nobody is backing onto the street. The access will most likely be used only for parcel A.
That is not what was explained by Mike a moment ago.
But there may be an easement developed for ingress egress, but really parcel A was making it very difficult to access that parcel. But it would, like any access that's close together like that, it would most likely be used for a couple.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, I would, if we're to the point, I would be in favor of doing it. I would propose that there be an easement that allows all 3 parcels to utilize both driveways, and that at the owner's expense, do not enter signs be erected on the property side of the north cut, and that a one-way sign be erected at the exit of the south cut. So that, I'm guessing, I don't know this, but those could end up being rental units turning over every year with new students, and I don't think they're going to hold an orientation meeting explaining how to use the driveways. So to at least give them some hint of what to do when you pull out of there. A one-way sign on the egress and a do not enter back into the property for the ingress.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
And an easement to make them all.
Exactly. The easement seems like is the main stumbling block there. For us to approve something when there's not an easement there, I'm fine with the design and the reasoning behind it. It's just that it's not clear about whether an easement is in place and how it will be signed. So maybe it's a condition we'd want to put on approval of.
I think we'd want to consider or reconsider putting too much signage there.
No matter too much, it's 2 signs.
And that's what I mean. I mean, you've got a lot of signage there. They're going to find their way in.
It's not a matter of finding a way in, so they don't try to make their way out.
They don't conflict. You end up with the same problem if somebody's trying to go in the out there.
Right. Like I said, if we get that second access and let's say it's only for parcel A, it still improves the safety of in and out of that property.
Yeah, if it's phrased that way, so it only is for A, and you can't access the others, then that's a different. If there's a fence between them or something, then that's a different thing, then that's not an ingress egress thing like we're talking about. So we're changing the.
It's a matter of what we're approving here.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of changing what Mr. Hall, do you have something to add here?
I was just going to say, if you were going to talk about requiring signage on private property, there'd be an enforcement issue. I don't know how you would ever
Fine.
build.
Put them in the median and point them toward the property.
But then you're going to have to go to the study to figure out why you're putting those in there under the Uniform Traffic Manual.
Then I will not vote to approve this without some signage.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's just if you're going to add some signage for on a private property, tell people how they can operate and move their vehicles within it. I just don't know how you would enforce it.
It's public right-of-way. The property line is back from the curb line. You can put it in the public right-of-way between the property line and the curb line.
Okay. It might become an issue, but you can,
That's
for whatever
where-
conditions you want
That's where
forward.
stop signs are erected. They're in the public right-of-way, not on private property.
Yes, and that's usually after considerable studies done to determine whether a stop sign is appropriate. I'm not a traffic expert or engineer.
Not to argue the point, but they're asking for us to change a condition the council's already made for this property. It sounds like we're willing to do it. I, for one, would like to see a little bit of something done to try to keep it as safe as possible.
So what if we approve it with the concept of getting some sort of study done to see if we need to put the signage in there?
I don't know what kind of study you're talking about. The signs will cost less than a study will.
Talk to me about that. Yeah.
Well, usually when you're going to put signage on roads, whatever speed limits inside there, usually you have to provide some kind of study determination what that should be, the purpose for why you're changing a road and conditions and signs on the road. There's a uniform traffic control manual or the sign manual. I don't know what's all this.
Rod, we're not changing the road.
Yeah.
We're changing the driveway actions.
No, my understanding was you wanted to put a do not enter sign. If somebody enters,
Facing into the property, so somebody will not turn left and go out the northern curb cut.
my thing is if they did that, it'd be kind of an enforcement issue. That was only my concern.
We don't have the authority to enforce that on private property.
You've got stop signs in the middle of the Palouse Empire Mall.
And
You know,
you
and
can't-
they're
you
not
can't-
enforceable.
I'd rather not say this in public. You're probably not going to get a ticket if you do not obey those.
You just did.
Well, it seems to me that the blocking issue here is the easement more than the signage.
The easement's the easy one.
Yeah, but it needs to be addressed before we can
I
move
agree.
forward with
I
this.
agree.
So-
Ultimately, a second access increases safety, whether they're two separate accesses at that point. Just because, once again, it's a right turn out only. I mean, nobody can turn left
Right.
out of that. So, and what this prevents is somebody backing into the street because they're parked awkwardly and they don't have another option to come out.
Right. But is there, what is the stumbling block between setting this up as an easement so that somebody from any of those three parcels can use the ingress? How is that a problem?
As the property owner.
Oh, yeah.
My name is Otto Kais. I'm the owner of 335 Louder. And just to clarify the issue, we were the owner of the whole property prior to this 1 acre parcel. The main house, if you want to go back, the main house that on the left has been sold, as well as the two smaller lots, the two B and C. And the reason for this, if we look at the access, if you could go back to where we were a bit ago, okay. Here, if you're coming into that approach for lots B and C, it's really quite easy to get into that and access. At this point, the buyer of those two parcels has no interest in developing them, but it could be developed in the future. The reason for using this curved kind of a curved driveway is to getting into parcel A from the second access is the one to the south would be difficult to turn and get back in. That's why I proposed doing the curved driveway, like I say, ingress and egress from B and C from the original proposal easement are very easy.
So, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead.
So was Mike not correct when I heard him say that this is proposed as an ingress on the northern and an egress on the southern for all three properties?
For parcel A.
Just for parcel A?
Yeah, I just understood it to be for the benefit of all those parcels.
That's
So
what I
That's
thought.
apparently not the case?
Well, it's not as far as ingress and egress for parcel B and C, getting in and out of those two with the existing one is very easy because you make a turn and you're right in. Whereas since we're doing just the one parcel, we're finishing this building and making a habitable structure, it just makes a whole lot more sense to make an approach that a curved driveway that for safety reasons for everybody, we go in and out. If there's easement for all three, it makes for almost no parking on parcel A.
Well, the way, Mr. Kais, the way it's shown there, it shows like a person could turn in that owns parcel A and back into a space there and never have to back out into traffic or back into the people who live in B and C, which I'm cool with that. But if there's no easement, then A can put up a block wall between there, and then you have basically, then you're left with two ingress egress things within 50 feet of each other, which can be traffic problematic. I see it. So
I would suggest we declare this not quite ready for prime time and ask appropriate staff and the owner and the engineer to huddle and come back with a coherent request.
Yeah, I understand your.
I just like it to be a little cleaner
We're not,
in terms of
yeah,
who can do
we're
what.
not, we're not against
Yeah.
two per se, but we'd like to understand how they're going to be used and how they can be controlled. So, and since Mike understood it one way and now it's being explained another, I think maybe it ought to have a little more work before it comes back before the council.
Yeah, I understand your concern as far as, we have no plans to build a wall. but
Right, but
yeah,
future owners
I
may have different
understand-
ideas, right?
I understand that, and it just seems to make sense to get back out onto Louder from the ingress, the northern thing, would be, for someone in parcel A, you'd have to be pretty stupid to attempt that, in my opinion, depending on the way it's constructed, I suppose. But
To go out from parcel A.
Yeah.
through the-
On the-
So if he has no access to the other one, for whatever reason, then he's stuck
Well-
going out that way.
well, the second one does. There is a.
There's a current easement.
Yeah, there's a current easement, so that could not be blocked.
Okay.
I think what Otto was getting at is he doesn't want to restrict it to only ingress and only egress, where the second access to the south there would work for both. But it's difficult for parcel A to use that one, where the first one that, or the second access we're asking for would be easier for parcel A to use, but nobody's going to block, unless a car is parked there, nobody's going to block traffic from going into parcel B and C.
So again, I still think it ought to just be sent back, but to follow up on Scott's comment, so A can come in either driveway cut and exit either?
Should be able to.
Okay, this takes it to another problem. I talked to engineering earlier today trying to understand this, and there was some indication, I thought I heard, that the northern curb cut was going to be constructed such that the ability to use it for egress was going to be precluded. I think we need to figure out what we're doing here, and I'll be happy to work on approving it.
Yeah, I like the idea of everybody being able to come in the northerly one and go to wherever they're going, and then go out the other one, or for A to go out the other one. I don't see too much of a problem with that. But the idea that A, if they don't like people at B and C, can build a wall between there, so that they can't use that for that purpose anymore, then the whole point of the whole thing is moot. So we need to clean that up in some way, so that we're all on the same page. What the way he explained it and the way he conceives of the thing is different. So let's clean that up if you wouldn't mind, and we'll probably approve it.
Again.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so moving on to item number 4 on today's agenda, Rolling Hills 8th Phase 2, or 8TH, or however you want to say that, green strip waiver request. Bob Bovell, what do you think about this?
Let me get this guy going here real quick. Oh, okay.
Well, yeah. The more input we got, the muddier the water got there.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Bob.
Hi, Bob.
I've come before you today to discuss the waiver request for Rolling Hills 8th Phase 2 of the requirement to build a green strip along the 3rd Street within that subdivision. Last May, we received a letter from Hodge & Associates on behalf of the developer for the Rolling Hills 8 subdivision, requesting that we waive the requirement to build a green strip along 3rd Street within their subdivision. The reason being, they would like to add a bulb out on 3rd Street to create on-street parking within the subdivision. The road is currently designated a collector, and the standard road section for a collector doesn't have on-street parking. There are other sections that can be used that do allow on-street parking, but they're a lot larger and a little bit more expensive to build. So what the developer is asking to do is to be able to essentially use the green strip as a parking lane and extend the pavement out to the edge of sidewalk and create some on-street parking within the subdivision. Public Works has gone through this issue before. Our new standard does allow for a bulb out does allow for a 9 to 10 foot parking bulb out, but we also require that the green strip is still
More of a bulb in, isn't it?
bulb in, bulb out. Yes, you're right. It's more of a bulb
where
in.
you are in the street,
Yep.
Boulder.
In that requirement, the green strip is still required. The Public Works likes to have the green strips for several reasons. Gives an area for somebody to plant the street trees that we all like. It gives
the streets department places to pile snow when they plow these areas. It gives us an opportunity to use these if we need to put in a bus shelter later. It gives us an area where we can put a bus shelter. So we really are trying to keep the green strips where we can. So our recommendation would be to construct a bulb in similar to what's shown, but still keep a 5-foot green strip and the parking lot similar to what the collector parking detail is in our current standards. And the major difference from that would be that it would be built within an easement, a public access easement, rather than right away as our new standard shows.
Bob, how much is the curb moved in? How many feet?
9 feet, I believe.
Okay, engineers agreeing with you, so behind your back, the designer's agreeing.
Okay.
So it's 9 feet. So does Mr. Becker's letter have any validity, his comment about it doesn't say it in his letter, but the parking area, moving the curb in 9 feet, creates a problem with getting parking between the garage and the sidewalk. And if you keep that 5-foot strip, then the sidewalk is,
if we keep the 5-foot strip, we're essentially pushing the sidewalk back closer towards where somebody could build the house. This is my understanding. I might have to clarify with community development, but my understanding is that on a collector street, they are legally allowed to have their garage door 20 feet from the right-of-way line. And so if they push their house as far forward as they're legally able, they will run into a situation where it would be difficult to use a driveway for a full 20 feet if we push this out.
to park a car and not block the sidewalk.
To park a car and not yes.
Block the sidewalk.
However, if they set their house far enough back, it does alleviate the problem. It creates a little bit of maybe the lots become a little bit less appealing to a builder when they see how far back the sidewalk is compared to maybe some of the other lots within the subdivision. So there is a perceived hindrance on the lots, I believe.
If I may?
Go ahead.
I would suggest that when Streets plows snow on this, that snow is going to go in the parking area. I'm just kind of a guess. That they're going to run the left edge of that plow on the center line, and it's going to go over, in this case, in the parking area. So I'm not sure the green strip's going to be really available or used for snow storage, even because if cars are parked there, they can't get it over there. As far as your comment about a place to put a bus shelter, the sidewalk is set back at both ends of this thing. So it's whatever number of 100 feet that the proposal is to not have the green strip is just that little bit of the whole subdivision that you couldn't put a bus shelter.
It seems to me that, like, this situation, we're trying to have our cake and eat it too. I mean, I remember when this came through planning and zoning, and there was concern that there was no on-street parking here, and so that's why the bulb out was, or bulb in, or whatever we're talking about, it was proposed, and I think it's a good idea to have on-street parking in that area. But then, in order to do that and still keep the green strip, the property owner gets penalized with, the value of the lot is reduced by that much, so the green strip seems like it's somewhat superfluous. We've already decided we're going to do one thing for public safety, and now we're going to try to have the other one, and we're going to put that on the property owner's back, which I'm not necessarily in favor of.
I don't have any problem with eliminating the green strip in this one instance.
Yeah,
I think the standards are fine in our standards, and that's what we'd like to have, but in this particular circumstance, we gain parking, and they can still park a car and not block the sidewalk between the sidewalk and the garage.
And I feel like if the property owner has that much more front yard, they'll probably put green on the other side of the sidewalk. So the amount of grass growing will probably be about the same. So I guess I'm in favor of waiving of the waiver.
I'm not usually in favor of eliminating anything green, but I think in this situation, it's necessary. So situation by situation, I'll think about it. So I'm in favor of not, I'm going to approve the waiver request on this one, like you guys are.
Okay. Well, I think we can move this forward, and this is probably a consent agenda item, I would think. So we're advancing that. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Looks like you're up next, too.
I am up next on the.
Item number 5 on today's agenda is the 6th and Jackson realignment bid results and the contract award.
I should probably start off right away by calling out a typo within the action line of the agenda. We accidentally plugged in the engineer's estimate number for the contract amount as opposed to what Albright's bid was. So just to clarify that.
So in the action, the correct number is the 358 something? 358, 340.
Yep.
Yes. 358, 340. Yes.
That was the engineer's estimate, and the bid was the 308?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was going to say. Yeah, it's
the other way around, unfortunately.
We're seeing.
Yes.
Well, in this, it's correct.
Which may have been the cause of the error, because generally the bigger number winds up being the estimate, but not in this case. Okay, so this is actually a rebid of a project, or of the same project that we bid back in May. Those numbers came in above estimate at that time too. We had a few line items that we attempted to renegotiate with the single bidder that we got. Negotiations didn't really work, and we eventually wound up rejecting the bid and putting it back out to bid. We did a bid opening on May 15th. Oh, no, I'm sorry. June 6th. June 6th, we did opened the new bid. Again, we had one bidder, it was the same contractor, and the one contractor came in with a bid of $358,340.40. The engineer's estimate on it was the $379,550. After consideration of desire to get the project started and desire to get get the utility work done ahead of the potential sangria project on the URA property, we're encouraged to try to move forward on the project despite the price that we got, and we're looking to try to award the contract to Albright's.
This second bid, does it include the lighting and the street tree grates that were contentious in the first bid? Or
Yes.
We got much better prices.
The prices did go down on both of those items, and so this bid does include those items. Yes.
This is a project that's been put off a year already in order to deal with logistical issues, and I think we should move forward with it. What does everybody else feel about this?
Well, I've got two things, if I may. The original estimate and bid had a $30,000 difference. And so my question to staff earlier today was, well, if we wouldn't approve 30,000 over, why are we being asked to approve 50,000 over, which is what the current amount is over estimate, the low bid. And help me if I get this wrong, 36,000 of that is an additional item that was added to this bid but wasn't in the first bid.
That is,
And that's covered by, and that is paid for by urban renewal, is that correct?
I believe that's correct. I'm not entirely sure if 100% of that item is going to be, but yes, 36,000 of it is an additional line item that is directional drilling to bring utilities underground to the site.
And which was not in the first bid.
Was not in the first bid. There are also some other off-site utilities associated with undergrounding, but that work was wrapped into the quantities, into other line items that involve trenching from a pole in the alley behind Jimmy John's and across 6th Street to the site as well. So those are two additional items that were added to the project for the second bid that weren't in the original. So I don't have exactly how much that was, but it's probably somewhere along the lines of another probably $15,000 of work that was added in addition to the 36.
And those items are being picked up by the Urban Renewal Agency?
I believe so, yes.
And if I may, one final question. On the CC&R, down at the bottom under the necessary resources, it's got zeros for all of the additional urban renewal funding items. Somebody have a copy of that in front of them? I just noticed it. I didn't see it earlier.
I'm not entirely sure why those are zeros. We'd have to go back and research.
They shouldn't
why.
be, should they?
I don't believe so. I believe it's a joint project between the Urban Renewal Agency and the Public Works
Comes
Department.
Bill with his check. Here comes Bill with his
Speaking of the
checkbook.
Urban Renewal Agency.
Depends on what numbers in front of the zeros.
The cost, yeah, the cost allocation that we identified going through the bid that was received and allocating the cost between the two entities, I believe the city's portion of the project ended up at about $211,000 for the turn lane construction that was within the city's budget for the project. The agency's work was about $145,000 or roughly, so whatever the total of those two that would make the 358. But that was the approximate distribution between the two. So the contribution from the agency, as I recall, was I think about $144,000 that would be coming to the project.
So Jen, can we fix this for council meeting?
Update that before next week, absolutely.
So I think it's a matter of
Make it more clear.
some mislabeling or something.
I believe so. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay, so I guess
I'm in favor.
somewhat unanimous in moving this forward and regular agenda because we need to have this cleaned up and explained. And
No,
for everybody?
I have no problem if it goes on consent as long as in the packet it's
Have those details outlined.
those details outlined. Then if somebody has a
I
problem
just
with
didn't
it,
want anybody to pull it off because of the details. If might as well just put it on the regular. If it's
only
gonna
if
be
the
full.
zeros reappear would I pull it.
Okay. All right then. Go ahead and put it on consent agenda
Will do.
pending those changes then.
All right.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Item number 6 today is the Moscow Citywide Sidewalk Replacement Project. Scott Bontrager's going to tell us about what's going on with that.
Presentation.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Scott.
So this year we published again for the citywide sidewalk replacement project. We usually put that out every year. It's a program that's used both by the city and by private citizens. The city uses it for constructing pedestrian ramps and sidewalks, sometimes curb. And we also use it as a assistance program for residents where we offer a 2-year warranty using this program. The permits are waived. It's managed by city staff. So it's a usually pretty good program. The prices are good for the public to be able to use it for their own replacement projects. This year we published advertisement on May 12th, and we received 2 responsive bids back. Pretty much the same 2 that we receive every year, one from McCall's Classic Construction and one from Knox Concrete. Unfortunately, this year the pricing that we received from them was nearly double what it usually is at $51,195 and 65,630, whereas the engineer's estimate was 33,860.
What happened?
Well, talking with both of the contractors this year, everybody is extremely busy.
We don't need the work.
Exactly. They said, we will give you a number, but you're not going to like it.
Okay. So there, if I may, there no intent to rebid it. We just won't have a program this year because everybody's too busy to get
Yeah, and I've talked with other contractors too. The type of companies that would do this type of work need to have a large enough workforce to be flexible, but still be public works licensed. There isn't much other ones out there, so what we'll do for the citizens that we usually offer for this type of program, we'll continue to take in the replacement projects that they have, offer to put them on the list so that next year, if we bid it early, we can make that a first priority. But as for this year, we'll be offering the program.
Gina?
I say we reject it.
One point that I'd like to bring up, didn't the legislature pass some sort of a law this last year that smaller projects like this didn't have to be bonded contractors in order to participate in this? And when will that take effect?
In July of this year is when that takes effect. The RFP limits have been adjusted to 50,000, I think, is the minimum of requiring an RFQ or RFP for certain projects. Also, licensure and bond requirements have moved up to that 50,000 as the lower threshold for that as well. Upwards of, I think, 250,000, somewhere in that ballpark. There's several cutoffs there, but that becomes effective this July. So maybe next year we'll see a little bit different.
So we could potentially rebid this later in the summer and get other contractors that are not qualified currently to bid the project and maybe get it done before snow?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay.
It just depends on the flexibility of the contractors and, the size of their workforces.
I think it makes quite a difference to move forward. We got like 56 miles of unpaved sidewalks in town, and maybe we should be not kicking the can down the road if we don't have to. So for $17,000, we probably can make that happen later in the year. So I guess we should go ahead and reject these bids and see if we can't rebid it. Suggest that we could possibly rebid this after that law takes effect.
Sure.
And get a wider contractor base.
Yeah. The action in the item is incorrect. It reads to reject McCall's Classic Construction, not reject all bids, which is what it should be.
It's just that was the low bid, so.
Right.
Well, you can reject him, then you take the other one.
Yeah. From a semantic standpoint, that's true. We should do it that, all bids.
I bet Rod would even agree with me this time.
Yeah, I bet he would. Yeah, I would agree.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Scott. Okay, item number 7 on today's agenda is 3rd Street Grind and Inlay. Bid results and contract award. Scott's still up on this one, and Steve's going to help him out with this.
Yep.
Good afternoon, Steve. Good afternoon.
So the other project here, 3rd Street Grind and Inlay. This is actually 3rd Street. This project is to do our yearly grind and inlay, one of our many pavement preservation type projects that we do. This particular one, the grind and inlay, is for this project removing 2-inch thick of asphalt, grinding it out, and replacing it back with another 2 inches of asphalt. What our plan this year is to do it on 3rd Street between Washington and Polk. And as a add alternate, we're also looking at doing A Street from Home to Llewellyn. So we put this one out to bid on May 13th. Got 2 responsive bids back on this one from Motley and the other one from Poe. The bid that we received from Motley was for the base bid and the add alternate, added up to $207,159. Whereas Poe's was $207,779.25, where the engineer's estimate was $196,942.50.
Was the engineer's estimate for both projects, for the add-on as well? Okay.
Yes. Yeah, the bid tabulation kind of shows the full breakdown of everything on it.
A question, if I may. Is the Home to Llewellyn part of the next A Street project?
It will take us up to where that one will end at of the next A Street project. So,
So this is east of the next
yes.
the next someday project.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, we did A Street further east. We did about 2 blocks. This will catch that next 2 blocks, which will then be in a line with the A Street project. So we'll have that corridor essentially fixed up.
You wouldn't do this if you didn't think it would, but I'll get you to say it. You think taking 2 inches off of this mess out here and putting it 2 inches back on will take care of the problem?
It's essentially to be, it won't take care of the problem, but as we continue
Speaking of the roughness of the road and all the potholes and everything.
it will help for the next 10 to 15 years that we need it to. Because as we continue doing 3rd Street reconstruction, where we're doing the sewer, water, and all that, as we're coming down the hill, where we started up towards the park up there, that'll eventually have to reach Washington to continue the 24-inch water main that we need for that interconnect between it and the Vista tank.
So with that, you will be rebuilding 3rd Street?
We will completely
as you
rebuild
come.
everything as we
Okay.
come down. So this is essentially a good Band-Aid until we reach that.
Okay. Okay, I'm good with it.
Me too.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Certainly A Street, that section of A Street's got a number of texture issues that need to be addressed. So, yeah, I think we can go ahead and put this on consent. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks, guys.
Item number 8, playground equipment purchase request for Indian Hills Park. David Schott, tell us what you know about it.
Well, good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Hi.
I will tell you what I know. So this is the playground equipment purchase request for Indian Hills Park. What we're trying to do here today is requesting approval of the purchase of playground equipment from All Play Systems LLC in an amount not to exceed $103,796.45 for Indian Hills Park. This will include 1 playground for 5 to 12-year-olds, 1 playground for 2 to 5-year-olds, 2 swings for each age group, and the tile safety surfacing. Just to refresh everybody's memory, the conceptual plan for Indian Hills Park was approved in September of 2015 by Council. This is really the initial development of the park, the installation of the playgrounds and the tile safety surfacing, an accessible route to those playgrounds, turf and irrigation. Getting back to the playgrounds, the City of Moscow issued a request for proposals with a legal advertisement in the Daily News on May 9th and again on the 16th. We also solicited to playground manufacturer suppliers within the Pacific Northwest. I sent it out to 15 of them. We did receive 6 responsive proposals. Once we got the proposals, we got them together and we opened up public voting for 2 weeks, beginning on May 22nd, ending on Friday, June 2nd. We released a press release. We mailed 142 postcards within a quarter mile of the park to residents. I did send emails to the principals of the school district, elementary schools, and junior high, and we had sandwich boards on site. Voters could vote online or in person at the HERC where the displays were posted. The city did receive 459 votes, a staggering 459 votes, and that was primarily through the online voting that Jen Piffner, our assistant city supervisor.
What were you expecting, 50 or 60?
Yeah. I wouldn't have imagined that many votes. And Jen put together a nice online survey that people could vote, and we got a lot of hits on that. We did have 127 in person at the HERC, old-fashioned paper ballots. These are the ranked options. Option 6 did receive 126 votes, 97 of those online, 29 at the HERC. This did represent 27% of the voting with Playcraft equipment with All Play Systems. Parks and Recs Commission considered this at a meeting on June 7th last week and took into consideration public input and made the decision to recommend All Play Systems. This is a picture of the 2 playgrounds. This is the playground for 5 to 12-year-olds. The playground for 2 to 5-year-olds. 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 The playground Back into the RFP, the quotes did have a range of $95,918 to $103,796.45. I do have that asterisk. The base quote from All Place Systems was below the listed price in the RFP of $99,500 with a number of $98,796. They did have an alternate in there for the roofs, and the roofs, I did make the decision in an effort to give the public as many options as possible. I did put their proposal within the public voting. The public really was voting with roofs on the playground for the posters. So I just would like to note that that did bring the total for that playground to $103,796. So budget for the project, Hamilton funds, which we'll be visiting in an administrative committee. We're looking at $140,000 from that. Bill Park's donation in the amount of $25,000. And we currently, in our fiscal year 17 capital budget, have $15,000 for turf and irrigation for the park, with a total project budget of $180,000 for the initial development of the park. Our staff recommendation is to move forward to All Place Systems along with the action, or provide us with further direction. That I'd be happy to take any questions.
What's the surfacing under the playground equipment?
It's the tile surfacing similar to what we have at Otness Park and East City Park.
And that's your department's preferred?
Yes, correct.
Okay. If I may, there seem to be several comments in the comments you gave us from the responses to the survey that people like the bark. I'm not suggesting we go that route, but that surprised me a little bit.
We've made a decision internally to start moving to the safety tile systems. If you run the numbers, go to any playground in the world that has engineered wood fiber, the bark within it, under the swings and slide, there's always a hole. That reduces the effectiveness of the safety surfacing. And to properly maintain those, you almost need to get staff out there daily to rake those in. The tile surfacing has some more upfront costs, but you don't have to, the maintenance costs that add up over time through the service life of the playground. So we're really moving towards the tile surfacing, in particular from a maintenance perspective. They're also very good for the critical heights and kids falling and not injuring themselves to the point of,
Mm-hmm.
Probably no barefoot kids get splinters from those either.
Wood chips end up in clothing, swallowed. Yep, I've got kids.
Can't swallow a tile.
Yeah, it's difficult. They're big.
They're big.
A lot of chewing involved.
Yeah.
If I may, one other thing I noticed in the comments was, please add water fountains. And I talked to David and to Dwight about that. The council got a letter from a young lady a couple of years ago wanting a water fountain at what I call Triangle Park, which y'all call
Eastgate Park.
Eastgate Park. I'm told that will be installed this summer. That's where she apparently plays and would like to have a water fountain. In talking to Dwight, it seems that when I asked him where should water fountains be in parks, he says where you have a playground. So my question then became, are we going to be putting fountains in all these playgrounds we're fixing to be building? Dwight's answer, to, if I can quote him correctly, was, well, we hadn't planned on it. I told him that I would continue to talk about it. So.
Well, Miss Noon is getting her fountain, so that's the important thing.
No, I'd like for all the kids in the community to get theirs.
She had the gumption to write the letter, so happy that she's getting her fountain.
Pretty big for a 6-year-old.
Yeah. I think we should move forward with this if everybody's in agreement here.
Yep.
We go ahead and
do it.
Move it forward.
I'm tickled to see it's going to happen this summer.
Me too.
And I'd like to publicly thank Mr. Parks for his contribution to this project as well, one more time, because it's kind of a big deal. Thank you, David.
Consent, regular?
I think consent agenda for this.
Thank you.
I think we're out of business.
That's about all the items we have for today's Public Works Finance. Thank you all for attending and watching on TV. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion carries.